Hey guys, Coach Keeney here, and we're really excited about this Chalk Talk. And let me tell you how it's going to work. I have Cam here as well. She's going to give the player perspective and how these Chalk Talks work. How you will get the most out of them is if you ask questions. All right. Nobody can see or hear you, but they see your questions. And what that does is it motivates others to ask questions. And I'll tell you what, if you ask a question, you're not only helping yourself, but you're probably helping 10 to 15 to 20 other players or parents that just decided not to ask the question. All right. So this topic is about holding yourself back. It's about competing, but competing is different depending on the age level you are. So I don't expect a 19-year-old player, an experienced player, to compete like a 9-year-old player. I don't expect a 9-year-old player to know how to compete all out like a 19-year-old player. It's just not going to happen. So we're going to give you guys some ideas, some tips and tools that every age can use to take your game to the next level. Now, I'd like to start by saying this. I was very shy as a kid. In middle school and even in high school, I was very shy, and I held myself back all the time. It was a real problem. And I knew it was very painful for me because I knew I could do better. I knew I had more in me. And what I found later on in life is that actually most youth are like that. I thought I was odd, because I was the one constantly holding myself, shying away, kind of the fly on the wall. But I actually found out that later in life that pretty much I was in a majority. Most people feel that way. Most people hold themselves back. And that's why this topic is so important to me. And because you're listening, it's important to you as well. So we're going to cover three things. Why does it happen? If you know why it happens, why you hold yourself back, and why you decide not to compete, you can address it. The second thing we're going to cover is how to develop competitiveness at any age. And then the third thing we're going to do is a shout out. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to Baltimore Celtic. We got a lot of those players and coaches on today, and we're going to be covering with you guys how to get the most out of the skill testing and the most out of competing. And so those of you guys that are not with Celtic, you can kind of follow along with us. I think you'll get a lot out of understanding how the team training works. Okay, so let's start with the big three. And I'm going to share my screen with you guys so you can see. Screen share, here we are. I'm going to share with you right here. Okay, so I'm going to share, these are the three reasons why we hold ourselves back. I've done a lot of research on this and also just from personal experiences. And the number one consistently is that we want to be liked. Everybody socially just wants to be accepted. They want to fit in. So often there's a great quote that I love that's people will sacrifice their greatness, their competitiveness to get along. So we want to be liked. The second one is we want to avoid controversy. And it's kind of the other side of that. We don't want to be criticized. We don't want to be in a controversial situation. So we decide not to compete. We decide to hold ourselves back. And the third is we're afraid of making mistakes. And all three of these combined are very addressable and very learnable for us to teach you guys how to overcome them. So let's start with the first tip here. I'm going to ask Cam to chime in on her personal experiences. Cam?
Yeah, so growing up, I had a teammate of mine in club who was competitive with everyone on our team. She worked really hard to make sure she was always the better player and that everybody knew it, but she never really worked on her own at all. So she never competed with herself, but was always not only competing, but kind of lashing out at everyone else. And she was a visibly unhappy person because of that. And then I, on the other hand, would try and compete with others, but mostly with myself growing up, trying to become the best player I could for my own personal gain and because I loved the sport.
So I love this quote. If you continuously compete with others, you become bitter. So if that's all you're trying to do is beat everybody out there. Now I'll tell you this, in college, they're going to want you to beat everybody out there. But most of us on this call are youth players. Anywhere from, some of these players are U9 players. U12, 13, 14, 15 is kind of the more common age, up to U19. You can become, but if you continuously compete with yourself, you become better. So it's bitter versus better. And I love that because I've trained players at the highest levels, pro levels, and I've taught them how to compete more effectively with themselves. So I'm going to teach you those same things today. But the first thing is understand this. If you are constantly, all you care about is beating your teammates and beating everybody else around you, but you're not trying to compete with yourself, you become bitter and you don't become better. So a really key point for you guys. All right. The next one, I love this guy. Hopefully you guys know who this is. And what I like about him is he learned early on in his player development, on how to compete with himself. And one of his coaches in high school at one of his camps, there's a video on it on YouTube that he is shown he would not leave his training session. He would not leave practice until he got 5 swish 3-point shots in a row. And the coach said, do you know how hard that is? So this is a point for you guys. What do you do? How do you score yourself? What do you do? What standard do you have to make sure that you're focused and getting the most out of it? So the question to you is, how much control do you have in competing? Well, you should learn by now. You should start to understand by now. A lot of players, I would say, if it's just about what happens on the field, it's hard. And I know it because I know it from personal experience. I know it from training experiences with players. I know it from research. It's super hard to always be a full tilt competitor. And frankly, it's very hard as a young player to be that really competitive player. But how much control do you have in competing like Steph Curry does? You have 100% control.
Jeannie sent in an email, and she's from Alabama, and she wants to know, how do you handle other players who see you competing hard on the field and they get upset with you? That's
a great question. I'm going to defer that to Cam. So the question is, players often don't want you to compete against them. Teammates often don't want you to compete against them because they think it's going to make you look bad. So Cam, how do you handle that as a young player?
I think the first thing you need to realize is that it's a problem with them, not you. Because when you're competing hard in practice and games, the reason that your teammates are upset is because it's making you look better than them. And they realize they should be doing the same thing, but either they don't want to or for some reason they're not. So know, first of all, that you're doing the right thing and that they are the ones that need to adjust their perspective. And then the second thing I would say is you can talk to your coach, you can talk to your teammates. Having communication is a good point. But eventually you're just going to have to be okay with the fact that everyone may not like you as much because you're working hard and competing, but you have to decide, is it more important to me to reach my potential or to get along with everybody that I encounter along the way?
Yeah, it's a actually Anson Dorrance, this is his quote. I can't remember exactly what it said. Cam, you may remember it, but it was about sacrificing your greatness. Many times players will sacrifice their greatness, which means how good they can become just to get along. And looking back, I can tell you, you're going to regret it. Now, it is a trick. You have to kind of work with it. Like Cam said, talk to your coach and figure out, hey, I'm really trying to compete hard. I'm trying to raise the level, but I'm getting this kind of feedback. How can I be more effective at it? That's a great conversation to have with your coach. That's a great points, Cam.
Yeah, Coach Karen wrote in and said, as a coach, she squashes that kind of behavior.
That's great.
Yeah, she says, would you rather have her on your team or the other team?
I love that. So Coach Karen, Baltimore Celtic, absolutely dead on point. Would you rather be playing with that competitive player or playing against that competitive player? It's a wonderful, constructive way of handling that, Karen. Kudos, really great.
Robert Walker from Virginia said, how do young players deal with coaches stifling them as players?
And okay, so I have a little bit of background on this, so I know the situation. This is where some coaches see a player who has trained really hard and is becoming extraordinarily creative, okay? And they are willing to try things on the field. They're willing to take players on. They're willing to do things that may actually look a little bit too sophisticated or too creative, or maybe even kind of the ball hog mentality. And I know this player in particular, no, absolutely, she's not a ball hog, but I would tell you this. it's a conversation you should have with the coach, and make sure you clarify. The players, young players at U12, even U11, should be able to have those kind of conversations with coaches. Look, most coaches, I was a coach for many years, and they're good people. Sometimes they're going to be super busy and it's going to be hard for you to approach them. Sometimes they're going to be fussy, just like I am, just like every parent is. So don't take that as it's not an important topic to cover. Just take that as now is not the time to cover it. So find the right time and have that conversation, and just ask them, hey, this is what happened. This is the feedback I'm getting. How should I handle it differently? It's quite similar to the other comment about a competitive player. Anything you want to add to that, Cam?
Yeah, I think definitely speaking with the coach is the best bet, because the coach is the one who kind of sees you from the outside perspective. And I think the only other thing would be take what they say and actually think about it, because chances are they're seeing something from the outside that you can't see yourself. So take it, digest it, and then have a conversation with them if you feel that's appropriate.
Great question. Great question. Okay, so tip number 2. This is from Anders Ericsson. Actually, Cameron and I were on a phone, a Skype call earlier with Anders a couple hours ago, talking about some research that we're doing. And I absolutely love this quote because it's so important to every player on this call's development. This is a fundamental truth about any sort of practice. If you never push yourself beyond your comfort zone, you will never improve. Anders Ericsson. So that came out of several of his books, but the most recent one is Peak. So the question is, how much control do you have in games, in all games of playing outside of your comfort zone? Well, the answer for most players is you don't. You don't have 100% control. How much control do you have in training on your own, competing against yourself and pushing yourself outside of your own comfort zone at home, in your backyard, in your basement, or before or after practice? You have 100% control over that. And that is a really important point here for you guys to understand how to improve your competitiveness. You first improve your competitiveness with yourself. That is a really key thing here. And I can't wait to show you how that comes across in the team-based training in about 2 minutes. But that's a really key thing. Everybody that's listening to this should be measuring and setting kind of fun goals on, I want to get better at this. So today I'm at 10 and I'm not going to accept anything less than 10 from now on. You have 100% control over that kind of mentality.
One of our families from Tennessee wants to know, how do I know if I'm pushing myself outside my comfort zone?
That's a great question.
What is my comfort zone?
Yeah, it's a great question. I will take that. Or Cam, if you got an idea and you want to chime in on that?
I think that's going back to scoring. So what you were just saying about having 10 being your best score, well, then tomorrow my best score has to be 11 or higher. You'll know where your comfort zone is once you start to breathe a little heavy, once you're completely focused on the exercise, once you're pushing yourself to improve on your score every time.
Yeah, and it's really where you're at the point where some days you'll get a better score, some days you won't. And listen, I want to make sure you understand this. I don't abide by some people like to count every single day, everything they do. That was probably me, but later in life. But I think there are some times where you need to just work on pure technique and not worry about scoring all the time. But I will tell you is when you get to the point where some days you can get a 10, some days the best you can get is a 9, some days the next day you may get 11, you are in that out of comfort zone area. It's in that area where you're struggling, where you're making more mistakes, where you're pushing yourself, but you're not always able to get your best. The whole concept is personal best. Try and get a personal best in every training session that you are serious about. There are going to be some sessions that are just not that serious and they're just pure lighthearted goofing around, and that's okay. But the serious sessions, try and get your personal best. Okay, so here's another one. Tip number 3. Cam's, you guys should be familiar with what this picture came from. This is our trick factory, but on the wall there is something that Cam is working on.
So this is about competing with somebody else. So one of my best friends and I play 1v1s every week in my basement. and we keep track of how many games we win. So what we do is every time I win, I get to put a tally under my name, and then she does the same thing. And I think this not only pushes me while her and I are together, but it also pushes me to go hard when I'm training on my own, because my motivation to learn those new skills and to master old ones is so that I can use them against her.
Great. All right. So that's tip number 3. So you can compete. This is a kind of the, everybody should be competing with themselves. And that's quite easy because you can set targets, you can set goals, you can monitor your scores, and you can compete with yourself. The next most effective one that translates to the game is to compete with one other player. This can be a teammate, this can be a friend, a sibling, but that's another great way of developing your competitiveness. In fact, 1v1s are the foundation of the game. If you can master 1v1s defensively and offensively, you can pretty much play about any position on the field. So this is the second level of developing your competitiveness. All right, so let me show you one more, and then we're going to jump into the team-based training platform, how you guys can get more out of the team-based training platform. So I want you to realize one thing that I'm showing you here on research that this research came out of Rutgers University up in New Jersey, and they did a study on how competition within the player and social competition impacted the player's effort. And here's what's important about this. Social competition, which is basically scoring like we do on our scoreboards, increased the physical effort in tasks, which all that means is that players train harder. They're more focused. They take it more seriously when they can see their names and they can see their scores compared to teammates or compared to players on other teams or compared to players across the country, whatever it is. They are more serious and they get better faster. So what I want to do is break from this, and we're going to jump into the dashboard here. So this is going to turn this off, and you're going to see us again. And then we're going to share the, let's see where we are. Why can't I see this? Give me 1 second here. Here we are. Okay. All right. So let me go back to, all right, here we are. All right. So what you should be seeing now is a team dashboard. So a big shout out to the Baltimore Celtics. So what I want to show you guys is how there's new skill ladder testing, skill testing, and that's where everything starts with scoring yourself. So let's just take a look at, we always go into first touch and passing. So let's go into the skill ladder testing for close control. Okay. Okay, so what you'll first see is up at the top, and this is for all players at Baltimore Celtic, but also anybody else that's watching. The first thing you'll see here are stages. There are stages of development, stages of standards of excellence. What I mean by that is stage 1 is a relatively fundamental level, and then stage 2 is intermediate, and stage 3 is advanced. And you will see for this exercise, the number of seconds gets faster and faster and faster. So it's lower number of seconds, you have to be fast. And the same thing for these other exercises. So here's what's cool about this. Now you guys know what stage you are in by your scores. So that's the first thing that we do for that's new here. The second thing we're doing here is if you roll down and you see these exercises, you will see what I said before about fundamental level. There are now videos that show what those fundamental, intermediate, and advanced technical levels look like. So now you can, let's say you want to go down to, let's go all the way down to stage 3. And let's just pick one. Which one's the most difficult one, Cam, do you think? It's 20 cones?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is watch 20 cones just for a few seconds. And it'll be a little choppy because when we broadcast, that's not going to work. So it'll be a little choppy because
20 cones.
when we broadcast, hold on a second. Let me make it a little bigger for you guys. Okay. Stage 3, 20 cones. So if you're not ripping through these, speed is nothing without control. Make sure they are both this fast before you test for stage 3. You notice she's not hitting any cones. Her technique's very good. Her technique's very fast. So that is showing the technical level of what stage 3 needs to look like for 20 cones inside. All right. And all of the exercises, both in first touch and passing and close control dribbling and in striking and ball manipulation, they all have these 3 standards of excellence for those different kits. All right. So that's one thing I wanted to show you guys that is different. So you're testing for the Celtic group that is due this Wednesday, by the way. So for those, the rest of you guys, you're seeing real time how they're going through this. Now, I do want to go back and say, so how do we use that? Now, all these players across the club and across the US, they are testing. How do we use that? Okay, here's how we use it. So they have a dashboard that these scores roll up into. So I'm going to skip past these dial gauges. And the first one you're going to see here are these hourlies. These are how much they are training. So you'll see that we list the top, what we call the grinders. They're the hardest workers. So 3.5 hours up to, for this club, 7 hours, which is a lot of training in a week. But now let's look at what the skills scores look like. Now, these are by skills. So, for example, we're looking at first touch and passing. So you now, because you've trained, you've put your scores in, they start to show up on this live dashboard, this live scoreboard. Now, what's cool about that is it works perfectly with what the psychology of motivation is. It works perfectly. The players put their train, they get their scores up, and then they post them here, and then they can see where they compare to each others. So what I want to do is quickly go back and show you now, for those of you that have not seen it before, what the training looks like. Okay, and then let's open it up. Let's start to open it up for questions right now.
We do have a question.
Sure.
Dion from North Carolina wants to know, how do you convince a 13-year-old girl to let go of her fear and just do it? She believes that you have to have confidence on the ball, but she's so worried about looking bad or making a mistake.
Yeah, it's one of the, it's really one of the beautiful things in the game is that when you stop worrying about making mistakes, because what happens is you make less mistakes. So you start allowing yourself to be comfortable. I will tell you this, and I can just tell a bunch of really quickly anecdotal stories. One is on Messi. Messi was interviewed one time, and Messi was asked about how many mistakes he makes in a game, and he says about 50 in a good game. I make about 50 mistakes in a good game. Arguably one of the best players in the world. Certainly at one point was absolutely the best player in the world. So he makes 50 mistakes in a game. Is it okay for you as a 13-year-old player to make mistakes? Absolutely. Are you going to make a lot of them? Absolutely. You're going to make more than 50? Probably. And that's great. So I will tell you one other quick one, and that is I asked a coach, an ACC coach, a high-level coach who is in recruiting. I said, if you see a player trying to make something happen, go into goal, and they get stuffed 9 times in a row, just totally get stuffed, they fall on the ground, they lose the ball over and over again, and they get through once, what do you think of that player? They get through once and they score a spectacular goal. What do you think of that player? He said, I want to recruit that player. And I said, why? They failed 9 times out of 10. He said, I don't care, because one, they have the grit, they have the determination, they're going to keep trying, and they have the confidence to keep trying. So
but don't you think that practicing more on your own, once you get so comfortable on the ball, that it's second nature, that the confidence comes?
Yes, there's a U12 player, I think, is on this call where her coach has told her that you shouldn't be able to play like this. And I talked to the dad, and I said, we haven't been teaching her certain things. We haven't been teaching her how to make better decisions. We've taught her how to master the ball. But she is so composed on the ball, has so much composure on the ball, she has time to look up, make better decisions, and she's confident to make things happen. So yes, it's a total function of mastering the ball. So I do want to make sure we have we have, as I'm going through this, any other questions coming through, go ahead. Because Cam has to leave in about 5 minutes for her club training. Okay, so here's how the training works for those of you guys that have not seen it. There are 4 fundamental technique training exercises. They are really, how do you do this exercise in detail? And then there are a variety of how do you use those exercises in a more competitive way that you measure. And it's all video based. So those of you guys that are new to this, that's you've seen how they score themselves. You've seen how we use the scoreboard. You've seen how they train. I want to show you one other cool thing, and that is, how do they talk to each other and how do they talk to us? So you'll see here, every week they have a task to do and training to do. But you'll see over here, they can post questions, they can post videos. You'll see if I roll down here, players are asking questions. Players are talking about something that worked really great for them. Players are posting things that aren't working for them. They have questions, and you'll just see it goes on and on and on and on and on and on for weeks and weeks. So this is just a wonderful resource. Here's one of the Celtic teams and Disney talking about how they did so well in Disney. And so this is a great way of getting personal feedback, either from your training group or from us, but also just to learn about what other people are saying and doing in the program. So just and it's all private meaning only the people within this program can see this. It's not a public training forum. Okay, so I want to give you guys a chance to ask questions of Cam before she leaves in 2 minutes. And then I'll be happy to stay for another couple minutes to answer any other questions. Okay, so I'm going to take it off share. Any other questions on the platform?
Coach Karen mentioned a couple of good books that people could read.
Sure, great.
And Robert Walker up in Virginia said that his daughter just tries to play for fun whenever she can.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
That gives her more confidence, helps her get over some of the fear of making mistakes.
Yes. That's a very effective, obviously very, very powerful way of doing it, is to keep it fun. And Cam, you had that experience. Cameron's, one of her most favorite days of the week is pickup.
Yeah, every Friday I play with local college players and also just people in college that don't actually play. I think in my experience, I actually started getting a lot more confidence when I started playing just fun recreational soccer, because I allowed myself to try things that I wouldn't normally try in a real game. And it reminded me of why I started playing soccer to begin with. It was because I really loved it.
Yeah, so I would strongly encourage you to find a really fun training environment too. And sometimes that's difficult just because of the culture of where you may be. But I know, training on your own, put headphones on, paint a flag on the wall, if it's in the basement. My kids painted their favorite characters all over the place. They put chalk on they listen to music. Just find a way to keep it fun.
So Maxie's mom wants to know, is the Ask and Post forum for all teams or just the team you're training with?
No, it would be for whatever program we are in at the time. So what we want to do is show teams, multiple teams, because you want to learn from other teams. So for example, Maxie's age, I can see her in my mind, I think roughly 12 or 12-ish. She would be on a team and would see the interactions of other teams as well. And when I say a team, those teams, by the way, you can join our team-based training. By the way, the next one is starting up in, I think we're going to do the second week of March. But there's only a few more days left of enrollment. But you can join as an individual. When I say team, it doesn't matter. You can join as an individual. You can join as a pair. This is new. You can join as a pair and say, I want to be on the same team as this person, or join as a squad. I want to be on the same team as these 3 others. Or you can join as an entire team like the Baltimore Celtic group has done. They've really led the way in having a number of teams do it at the same time. And the results have been extraordinary. They are on the call, and the results have been absolutely extraordinary and exciting. I got a wonderful email today from one of the 2008 parents.
Mr. Antonakis wants to know from Cam, what height on the wall do you aim to hit when playing 2+ wall ball?
So if you're from 9 feet, I would say, do you know how tall the Trick Factory wall is? Because I hit it right in the middle.
There's the target is a the. So I would say it also depends on the type of how hard the wall is, but let's say it's probably around 6 feet. You'll know here's my recommendation.
Probably head height for me.
Yeah.
Maybe like here, or I don't know. So like maybe 5-ish feet.
Yeah. And but here's my recommendation, Andrew, is you take the ball from your hands, or have her take the ball from your hands and just hit the ball from her hands and just get a feel for where it's going to bounce back. That's going to take her just a little bit of time to figure out where's the best place to be and where to hit it. But I will tell you right now, you just asked a really important question. Purposeful practice is not only having a skill that you're working on very deliberately, very intently, but also say goodbye to Cam.
I got to go, guys.
She's got to go to training. She trains with the boys team 3 days a week. Anyway, so
we had a question for Cam after she left.
Okay. Should I go grab her?
No. You went over Steph Curry's end of practice routine. What is Cam's end of practice routine where she won't leave until she does whatever?
Oh, I think you got to get that one. That's a great one. See if you can get her before she leaves, or she can just holler to you and we'll repeat it.
Okay, I'm going to call her on the
phone. All right, she's going to Maria's going to call her on the phone, and we're going to get that. It's a great question. Whoever that was, that's wonderful. Who did that come from?
That was Catherine's from Celtic.
Catherine. So great question. Those are the kind of questions, by the way, we want you guys to ask direct questions. Really candid questions. If you have something, even if it feels like it's a little personal, we'll tell you. Okay, yeah, we'll answer that. I would say 99% of the time, we're going to say absolutely want to tell you kind of the inside secrets to getting better and how we've done it, what works and what doesn't. And happy to tell you guys that.
Okay.
All right. So she's asking it right now. I will tell you that having that kind of a mentality, so asking this question is wonderful. Having that kind of a mentality, my training isn't over until I do such and such. Now, if you only have a certain amount of time, obviously you have to do the best you can within that time. But if you have a little bit more time, it'd be wonderful to say, I'm not leaving until I get 5 in a row. I'm not leaving until I get this in 10 seconds or whatever it is. I can tell you right now, Brandt Bronico, when I trained him over the winter, this winter and last winter, that's exactly how he trained. He said, we're not leaving. I kept on saying, okay, it's getting dark. I'm saying, let's wrap it up. And he said, no, one more time. And I said, all right, I have to turn the lights on. Are we going to stay? He said, nope, let's do one more time. What was it?
She said and I didn't really understand all of it because she got very specific. But she said that when she's juggling, there's a certain place on her laces that she tries to hit when it comes back off the wall. So she's trying to hit it in an exact part of her foot, and she does it so many times on each foot before she'll leave practice.
Okay, so when she's not using, it's not juggling, it's air wall ball. But what she's saying is it's using a target on the wall and it hitting a very specific place on her laces before she leaves. She'll do that a certain number of times before she ends practice when she's doing first touch and passing. Okay, any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, guys, awesome. Well done. I will tell you this, we're going to post the enrollment. Anybody who's interested, anybody who's new and hasn't heard anything about the first touch and passing, close control dribbling, or striking and ball manipulation, team-based training, if this is new to you and you want to learn more, email us. Email me or email registration@captainelite.com. If now you feel like you know enough about it, how it works, how it looks, then you are welcome to, I think you just posted the enrollment. You're welcome to enroll in that. We'll kick off roughly mid-March. And for Baltimore Celtic and for the new implementation, I'm super excited about this. You guys are going to get a new portal. What I mean by a new portal is all of the data for you will be private to you, but it'll be live. So for the Celtic folks, no more emails. Everything's going to be live.
Is it Celtic or Celtic?
No, it's Celtic. I used to call it Celtic. Here's the funny thing. This is really funny. One of the parents, and I don't know why. I guess I'm Irish, and isn't that?
Yeah, Celtic.
Is it Celtic or something? I know it's Celtic because a parent told me that, hey, you probably should, call it by the right name. So you guys tell me if you're still on, Karen's on, or anybody else on, Am I pronouncing it correctly?
You
Celtic.
might want to talk about
Baltimore
the second
Celtic.
Chalk Talk. And
yes. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot, guys. There's one more Chalk Talk. That is part 2 of this. Part 2 of this is Brandt Bronico, who's a Chicago Fire MLS pro player that we trained 2 winters in a row, and got him from 53 minutes playing time to 1,700 minutes, starting next to Bastian Schweinsteiger, who's one of the best players in the world, Hall of Fame player in Europe. And he actually, Brandt wore his captain's armband for the first time last week. And this is only his 3rd year. So his rookie year, 53 minutes, second year after training with us, 1,700 minutes. And now he's just beginning his 3rd year. Anyway, he will be on the call with us on the next Chalk Talk. And that will be, I think it's March 12th. And what we're going to talk about is how the American system of development compares to the European system. Now, we know for a fact in the South American system, we know it's different, okay? We also, I'm a total believer that there is an American way that's more effective than how we do it today. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about. I want to say that players in Europe train a lot more than you do in general. And they have mastered the ball at a much younger age. But I'm going to share with you how you guys can do that too, and not look at America and say, American soccer, we're just not like the rest of the world. Well, absolutely, you can be. You can be. All right. So I cannot wait to share that. He's going to be on the call with me. We're going to be debating back and forth on how to do that, what works for him, what didn't work for him, what his youth was like, what his youth development was like, how he didn't get what he wanted, what he needed from the club. But now he's saying that the tools today are available to do everything you want to do. Everything you want to do, and there's no really limits to your development. Okay, any other questions?
no, Coach Karen wants to know if we can do it at 5:30 again.
Oh, she likes this at 5:30. It's funny because Cam said, can we do this at 5:20 instead so I can make it to my practice without being late? The boys give her a lot of grief. All right. Yeah, so 5:30 again would be great. Karen, we love doing it this early if it works for you guys. All right, excellent. You guys have a great night, and always reach out. Email registration@captainlead.com. Email mike@captainlead.com. We want to hear from you guys. If there are topics that you want to hear about, if there are really jugular topics, really important topics for you guys that you'd like us to take on these calls, tell us. We'll do it. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Have a great week.